Day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Another earthquake rocked parts of Mindanao this morning. This time, it's a magnitude 5.6 tremor, with its epicenter located in Governor Generoso, Davao Oriental. Intensity 2 was felt in General Santos City, as well as in Alabel and Kiamba in Sarangani. Intensity 1, on the other hand, was recorded in Coronadal, South Cotabato. No damage was reported, but PHIVOLCS warns that aftershocks are possible. Some retailers decided to go on pork and chicken holiday today as the government begins implementing the price cap in Metro Manila. To give us more details, we have Shaila Francisco reporting to us live from the Commonwealth Market. Shaila, good morning. Could you give us the situation over there?
Charles, as you can see behind me, majority or almost all chicken and pork stalls here in Commonwealth Market have voluntarily closed today. Retailers say they cannot comply with the price cap set by the government. Recall that the price cap set for Kasim is at 270 pesos a kilo, while Yempo is at 300 a kilo, and chicken is at 160 a kilo. But retailers say this is not enough to cover expenses in buying meat, as well as other costs in rent and manpower. They say it's better to temporarily close down than to face fines and other penalties. Meanwhile, some have no choice but to close their stalls today because their suppliers did not bring in any meat products. The Quezon City Market Development and Administration Department, as well as the Agriculture Department, have inspected stalls earlier to check on their prices. Authorities say most of the open stalls have complied with the price cap, but owners of these stalls say they are just operating at a loss today and may fail to open in the next few days if there's no cheaper supply. Customers, on the other hand, were surprised with the ongoing pork and chicken holiday. Some customers even decided to hoard supply for fear that most stalls will shut down tomorrow. For its part, the DA says violators will not face fines and penalties immediately. The agency says they will first give a notice of inquiry to find out why retailers are unable to comply. Charles, earlier the DA says a cheaper pork supply coming from Batangas, Visayas, and Mindanao may arrive tonight to help retailers in Commonwealth Market and other markets comply with the SRP. They are set to be sold by retailers tomorrow. They are also getting on more suppliers of chicken to bring down prices. Charles?
Thanks for that, Shaila. That was Shaila Francisco reporting to us live from Quezon City. Also, because of the implementation of a price ceiling, meat vendors at the Trabaho Market in Manila are now resorting to selling frozen products. Vendors say they're doing this because frozen meat is cheaper than fresh ones. They noted that small profit is better than none. The price of some vegetables also increased, while others dropped. Prices of other food products at Trabaho Market will be flashed on your screens. Only about 112,000 new voters have registered for the 2022 elections. That's according to COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon. Because of this, the Commission has passed a resolution which allows people to register even on Saturdays. This is to ensure that 18-year-olds who have online classes on weekdays may still register for the next elections. Meanwhile, Guanzon adds that campaign strategies are set to change. She says the COMELEC is eyeing to change the rules to include social media campaigns since regular rallies are difficult to do amid the pandemic.
There will be more doing social media and more doing TV ads and radio. And I think the rallies are already a thing of the past with this pandemic. We're going to have to change our rules so we can regulate the use of social media as campaign advertising, and so that they can be required to report that as their campaign expenses.
Some supporters of Vice President Leni Robredo are said to have initiated fundraising activities to support her possible, yet still unsure, presidential bid for 2022. To this, Robredo says thanks, but no thanks. On her weekly radio show, Robredo said she appreciates the trust that she's been receiving from her supporters. But for now, Robredo stressed that her focus is the pandemic. The Vice President is now urging her supporters to raise funds for Filipinos affected by the health crisis instead of her possible election bid. Earlier this week, some of Robredo's supporters also launched an online petition called I Am Ready for Lenny to encourage her to run for president next year. We'll be back with more stories after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're watching Bloomberg TV Philippines on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. SARS-CoV-2, or the virus that causes COVID-19, now has 5 or 6 variants of concern. How will this change the efficacy of the current vaccines? Let's watch this.
Every day we worry about a new variant. How many new variants have we identified, and how much do we know about how more deadly if they are, and whether the vaccines we have work against them?
Yeah, it's a complicated question because, we have our main variants that everyone talks about, the UK, the South African, the Brazil variant. We're seeing other viruses that are unrelated to those, acquiring some of the mutations that we think are important for these new variant spreads. And we're also seeing the variants accumulate a few more mutations. So right now it looks like there's 5 or 6 of these variants that I would say are of concern out there because they possess mutations that we know will either affect transmission or would affect the ability of antibodies to bind to them. Now the good news is some of the studies, particularly some of the more recent vaccines, have been looking at efficacy against these variants, and most of the vaccines continue to have some efficacy against the variants. It drops a little bit compared to the older strains, but the efficacy is still there. So I think the message when it comes to vaccines is if you're online, stay online. When you get called to get online, I would get online because these vaccines are going to provide protection and they're going to help reduce the spread of the older strains as well as the variants.
Andrew, we also seem to be hearing that a number of companies or even countries are looking at combinations of their vaccine shots to see whether they're more effective. I think the latest news was Russia talking to China. Could it be the right way forward?
Absolutely. It takes some clinical trials to make sure that you can go across these vaccine platforms as efficiently as some of the within-platform boost strategies are. But anything we can do to maximize the number of vaccines that we could use together will help us move forward to that goal of getting as many people as possible with the highest level of vaccine of immune protection, because that's what we need to get into the human population.
Andrew, the only question really that people want to know is how do we slow death rates, and of course when might life return back to normal? We have a new vaccine tracker here at Bloomberg, and it tells me in 7.4 years at today's vaccine rates. But how much will the rates actually accelerate?
Yeah, so this is the important thing about models. Models tell us where we might be going based on the data that we have right now. And vaccine trackers are really important to help us understand what might be the best way to roll out vaccine and how the rollout will change. It's clear that the vaccine trackers will be changing their projections as we continue to increase our manufacturing capacity. And something as simple as even the J&J vaccine coming on the market could have a massive change in terms of the timeline in which we could get to a protective level of immunity in the population.
New Zealand continues to promote domestic tourism amid international travel restrictions brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Under a new campaign, they're urging people not to take influencer-inspired photos. Let's find out why in this report.
I've seen all this before. Yeah, we all have. But this summer, we're clamping down on anyone travelling under the social influence.
One of the things we do here with the start of the COVID crisis is we've really started promoting domestic tourism in New Zealand. And part of that, and I think you'll probably find this in many countries around the world, is really to try and challenge people to do something new in their own country. So we launched a new campaign called Do Something New New Zealand.
And don't forget to share something new, okay?
I mean, I do share my name with him. He's also Tom Sainsbury, essentially. But I think he's a lot more fastidious than I am. His life work, his life goal is to go around encouraging people not to do the same old social media photos, like the legs or hot dog, you know, that photo, I love that one, or the follow me, that one, you know, like follow me with the back. And so he's just trying to combat that. So that's that Tom Sainsbury. Me, I'm a lot more chill.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 1 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.